from Zenkuda. It must be Monday at 7 o'clock because here I am in the Soul Space. It's Strong Island Studios in Massapequa, New York. Try to say that 10 times fast, right? So I hope you guys are having a really great day. I am sharing the show. If you guys are out there and you could share the show too, that would be absolutely fantastic. So I'm having a challenging day. I never come on and say that, but today I'm having a challenging day. So maybe send me some lovin'. Um, really trying to, I don't know, how can we say, trying to find my way today. You know, it's a little bit difficult, but I'm doing it. Okay. Just some things come up sometimes in life, right? I'm sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about. So, going to just share the show with one other. Copy the link here. Great. Um, so I'm going to do some astrology tonight. I hope you're all feeling good. I want to tell you that I am definitely looking forward to December. If we can get through December, guys, we can get through anything because December is a month where things start to move forward a little bit, but we definitely have a push pull, push pull. So Mercury is retrograde for almost the whole month of December because it's already in its shadow from the end of November. It went into shadow. So we'll get into the astrology. But first, I want to see who is on tonight. Let me see who is on my show. Who's on here? Who do I have? Got Sarah. Hey, Sarah, I owe you an appointment call. And Elaine's on. Thank you, Elaine. I see a couple more people piling in. So if you're on tonight, you're probably wondering what the heck is going on with the astrology. And what I can tell you is December is going to be a rockin' and rollin' month. December is going to be a month where we feel like things are moving forward, but they're not yet moving forward too much. So I'm going to dive right in because if we have time left over, then we're going to do some cards. But I don't know if we'll have time left over. Hey, Anita, how are you doing? So send me some love in tonight because I got to tell you, today was a rough one. Things are not always what they seem, right? And sometimes we get misunderstood and we can't really figure out how to fix that. I think sometimes people have preconceived notions about things, and sometimes we just have to accept the fact that we're never going to be able to make them, or I shouldn't say make them, we're never going to be able to bring them around to our way of thinking, and that sometimes we just have to live in a disagreement or in a conflict and work our way through it as best we can. I think the answer is always love, but sometimes people can be a little harsh. And I think there's also a very big culture out there today where people don't want to deal with anything that's uncomfortable or just annoying. And sometimes we have issues with things that can be annoying, right? People annoy us, and sometimes we can even be annoying. But these days, everybody just wants to cancel everybody. And I think that's so harmful and hurtful, even when we do it to each other. And, you know, sometimes if I'm tired, I might feel like that about something or somebody as well. And I think it's so harmful because with no empathy, there's no room for forgiveness, there's no room for healing. And I talk about that a lot on the show, but then you have a day like today where you're like really living it. And it's really tough sometimes to come against something where somebody just doesn't really have any patience or any um, openness to really talk about the situation with you or iron it out. And, you know, sometimes we misspeak and we can come on harsh and say something in a stronger way than we really mean it to be. And we're really looking for resolution, but we come off the wrong way. And we hope that we can get into a space with someone where we can resolve something, but it doesn't always happen. And I think that's the hardest part of adulting is accepting when it's not going to happen and knowing what the outcome is probably nothing that you had hoped for. So having one of those days today. So anyway, hey Cheryl, how are you doing? Glad you're on. Hey Marie. Um, what we accept makes us stronger. And that's why I titled tonight's show, You Gotta Believe, because the astrology is definitely going to bring us to a place of faith and um, optimism. But is it too much too soon? Is it too much faith and too much optimism too soon? Or is it just the right amount? I don't know. We'll find out this month as it goes forward. So we start out the month with Mercury in, it's not in retrograde yet, but it's in what we call the shadow period of going retrograde. So it's moving very slowly. So since around Thanksgiving, you may be feeling like we are in a Mercury retrograde. And so oftentimes something that has come up at around that Thanksgiving time, that November 25th period, that weekend, now it's going to come back up, and it's probably going to come back up at least 3 times for you, because retrograde planets, when they're retrograde, actually pass over certain points in the zodiac, wherever they are in the chart, 3 times. That's why we have that old saying, things come in threes, you know? Um, so this month, all the outer planets that have been retrograde do start moving forward. By the middle of January, around January 19th, 20th, all the planets are then forward, the inner and outer planets. So when that happens, things really start to move forward. The things that you've been working on for the last few months and the things that you've had those struggles with really start to come through, and you start to see some real progression. December, that doesn't really happen yet. December, we have some awakening and some revelations about those things, but they don't actually move forward. They might start to crawl forward, but the good stuff doesn't come. And it's very rare that we had the cluster of planets that we had in 2023, this particular year. We had a lot of planets clustered in retrograde. That's very rare. It really doesn't happen that often. And when it does, it can be very frustrating energy. And I think that's why you see a lot of frustrations coming out right now. I mean, even my own frustrations came out last night a little bit, and finding myself in a situation because of it today. Um, what I will say is that I did a video that's on my Facebook page now. I think I put it up on Saturday. And it's a really great video about the astrology and where we are right now as far as the energy in the world and what to expect going forward. And the quick summary of that video was really about why we're in this place of drifting and nothing feels like it's grounding us, and we don't really have a boundary, and we don't really have an place to go to orientate ourselves to what's going on in the world. And it was a really good video. I know it's a little bit long. It's like 40 minutes. But if you go back and watch that sometime this week or play it in the car or whatever, I think that'll really help everybody feel a little bit more stable in the energy that we're in and will be in for a long time. So getting back, drilling it down to December, really rare for all those planets to be in retrograde. Pluto is at the end of Capricorn still. It's really going to start to move into Aquarius now. And then after that, all the other planets start to move as well. So come mid-January, you really will feel that forward momentum. So I feel like we kind of have a little bit of a delayed New Year's. You know, on January 1st, everybody wants everything to just snap into place. But this year, when 2024 comes, you're going to see that things snapping into place, feeling that new, fresh start feeling happening, 3 weeks into the month of January instead of right on that New Year point. Um, but, first we have to kind of navigate December, and December can be a little tricky. So Pluto is out of retrograde. That's a really big deal. It's moving right towards Aquarius. So it's definitely going to feel like an end of an era come January. We're going to feel like really the end of an era, that feelings of heaviness, those feelings of things dissolving, of structures crumbling since 2008 really starts now to come into a whole new cycle of life. Saturn moves out of retrograde also in the beginning of November. That happened. And now in December, we've got Neptune going direct December 6th. We've got Chiron going direct December 26th. And we've got Jupiter going direct December 30th. So by January, all of our planets will all be completely going direct. So that's going to be great energy for us. It's a great time to set your intentions now in December. Use December and the couple of weeks that we have in January before everything really opens up to really set your plans, whether that's business or project or personal. Really think about, where am I now and who am I becoming? Because that's going to be a really important theme for December for you. December should be our last month of little to no progress. I know, myself included, like there's things I'm starting to move forward, but there's other things, like I talked last week about trying to remodel my den and redecorate my den, and it's just not coming together, and it's not getting off the ground. I keep going shopping and not buying anything, and things like that. So you want to make sure that those projects that you've been frustrated with, don't just throw them away. Now's the time when you'll really start to see them move forward. So December should be the last of our little to no progress. And then by February, Pluto will be in Aquarius for good. That's going to be a whole new cycle of life for us. That's a very long life cycle. We've had Pluto in Capricorn since 2008. I've talked enough about that on the show. Pluto in Aquarius is a lighter energy, but it's also an energy that's going to make a lot of things happen in the technology world with AI. If you have anything that you're doing with technology or knowledge or really futuristic type things, science, health, related to science, those are all Pluto and Aquarius type of projects. But the planets will still move slow until around February because they're coming out of those shadow periods. So Saturn's going to be in Pisces. There's a few things we have to think about here. Saturn's going to be in Pisces, which is also contributing to that drifting, that psychic drifting that we have almost, where like we don't really feel a boundary. Time is really kind of strange. I know over the weekend I felt like the days went so fast and I didn't get anything done in them. Even though I did get stuff done, it wasn't the things I planned on doing. And then I turned around and it was like 4 p.m. and I was like, where'd the whole day go? Time is very distorted with Saturn in Pisces. Um, Jupiter and Uranus are meeting up in Taurus, which means that we've got a lot of sudden unexpected change happening. But Taurus is an energy that can have this happen in our finances. It can happen in the, stock markets. It's also an energy that's an earth energy. So you may see a lot of unexpected things happen with things like food, the way our food is prepared, the way our food is manufactured, synthetics foods being, adapted and invented. And then we've also still got Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces is adding to that drift that just Saturn is usually the planet of authority that makes boundaries and structures and containers for us. And in Pisces, it's unbound. It doesn't really know how to function as well as efficiently because it's just not got the boundary. It's got not got the authority. It's kind of like wishy-washy, and we find things dissolving. So that's going to continue through to December. But the planets, as they do begin to move forward, that will kind of become a little bit less prominent, less important to us. So I want to talk a little bit about this Mercury retrograde because it's a strong one. Hey Janine, how are you? Hey Marianne. So this particular Mercury retrograde, actually the official exact Mercury retrograde starts on December 12th. However, we're already in the shadow period, so it's going to feel like it's already happening. So it's going to start to actually retrograde around 8 degrees of Capricorn. So just as it goes into Cap, and it's, Mercury's only been there for a short period of time, it already starts to go back, and eventually it actually tracks all the way backwards into Sagittarius. Now, planets don't actually move backwards. They move slowly while the Earth keeps spinning, so they'll repeat into a degree. They'll go back. They'll seem like they're going backwards. So January 1st, Mercury, which has been in Capricorn for basically all of December, January 1st, Mercury is actually gone all the way back to Sagittarius at 22 degrees. So if you have any planets in Capricorn, 8 degrees of Capricorn, back through to 22 degrees of Sagittarius, meaning in the late degrees of Sagittarius, you're going to be really affected by this Mercury retrograde. If you've got planets in other signs, Virgo, Pisces, Gemini. Gemini is going to be in opposition to the Mercury retrograde. So you want to make sure that you're really taking care to check your list twice, check your directions, read everything before you sign the contract, things like that. So it technically started shadow at 11:25, which was around that Thanksgiving weekend. So these things will keep repeating. Whatever was in the air for you Thanksgiving weekend is going to repeat like 3 times. Okay. Also, it's not going to be officially moving forward and back in Capricorn until January 13th. That's the shadow period ending. So this is a long and intense Mercury retrograde. It's in an earth sign, so you can expect more problems with things like anything that's earthy, travel, not so much air travel, but travel by car, especially when it's in Sagittarius, which is short distances. So it's going to be themes like that. Also, remember, retrograde planets become more powerful because they're moving more slowly. So especially Mercury, which is a planet of communication and our minds, in an earth sign like Capricorn, which is ruled by Sagittarius, which is limitations, you're going to find your communications really glitchy. And like that's what happened to me today. Like I saw an email I really wasn't supposed to see. And it was really devastating. So technically, we're going to be really, we're in the shadow period of that Mercury retrograde now, and technically we will be until January 13th. But the actual day of the Mercury retrograde, including the shadow, is 11/25 to January 20th. So, but there's some things that happen during this Mercury retrograde that make it more powerful and make it more glitchy and a little bit more hard to navigate for us. And the first thing that happens is Mercury squares Neptune. Now, Mercury squaring Neptune is an energy that gets stirred up 3 times during this retrograde because remember, as I was saying, as the planet moves slowly, right, and the Earth is still spinning, that means as the planet sits in like kind of one position, it's going to go over a certain part of the zodiac. Then it starts to retrograde because it's moving so slow. The Earth moves and it will bring the planet over that part of the zodiac, that degree of the sign again, and then when the planet starts to move forward, it goes past it again. So that's why I say if you have anything in the retrograde field, like from 8 degrees of Capricorn backing up into 22 degrees of Sagittarius, those points are going to get hit 3 times in your chart. So really look in the chart and see what those are for you. So the energy keeps getting stirred up again, and unfortunately that Mercury Neptune square is on November 27th, and then it happens again on 12/26. So it happened on Thanksgiving, and it's going to happen on Christmas, and then it's going to happen again on January 8th. So whatever was going on Thanksgiving is going to get revisited Christmas. So if there was a family conflict or an argument or a forgiveness or a healing or anything good or bad, whatever it is, positive, negative, that energy is going to repeat on those days. Also, we have Mercury sextiling Saturn on 12/2, 12/21, and January 18th. That is the dates where you're going to get a reality check. So this is how the energy in the retrograde plays out and some of the other things that are happening. So all month long, we have a push-pull. And because we've got the sun in Sagittarius, we've got Venus going into Sagittarius on... Venus goes into Sag on... I think December 4th, I think. We've got Mercury and the Sun in Sagittarius, and right now Venus is still in Scorpio. That's what's creating these heaviness that we feel, possessiveness, attachments. We're getting attached to things quite a bit right now. That will lighten up when Venus goes into Sagittarius. But we still have a lot of Sagittarian energy with the Sun there, with Mercury going in there, etc. So what that means is Sagittarius is very hopeful, very optimistic energy. So we're going to have a month where we start to feel really hopeful and really optimistic about things. And then we get that Mercury sextile Saturn and the Neptune square to Mercury, which is the dates I just gave you, which is Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, January 8th, 12/2, 12/21, January 18th, in that bracket of time. So we feel optimistic and we feel hopeful. And then on those dates, we get the reality check. So it's almost like we start to have a breakthrough, and then there's this motivational piece that comes in, and we get this big idea, and Jupiter starts to really, make contact with some of those big ideas, and it just makes it even bigger, and we start to feel really good about our idea and good about putting this plan into place. And then we get these squares that come in and say, oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. This is your reality check, right? So, we're feeling our oats. We're feeling like we need to change things. We're feeling like we're really going to be optimistic and things are going to really work out, and we're going to do our planning and we're going to be so great at this project. But then there's this little reality check that comes. And we'll keep going to have that as the retrograde keeps hitting these points and activating certain things. So what the retrograde does is it keeps reliving and repeating these points in the chart. A trine to Jupiter, a square to Uranus, a sextile to Saturn. And without going into too much of the technical stuff, what it is that's the push-pull energy of the breakthrough, the exaggeration, the optimism, and then the pullback. And the breakthrough and the optimism. And it's going to work this time, and the pullback. So it can be a very frustrating month. But then towards the end of the month, when the retrograde Mercury starts to move more forward, come January 17th, we have that final push pull of the big idea and the revelation and the motivational energy and the optimism. And then we get a reality check. But because the planet is starting to move forward, Mercury is starting to move forward, this around January 18th, then this big idea finally settles in and we can take it into the future. But for the next 5 to 6 weeks, we're going to keep having that going back to the drawing board. Oh, wait, I thought this was better than it was. And the other thing you have to be really careful of in this energy is we will have a tendency to exaggerate things. You can exaggerate good things, you can exaggerate bad things, but you'll have a tendency to exaggerate things, make things seem better than they are. You will have a tendency, we all will have a tendency also to only see the good in something. And that may be when the reality check comes, especially around those dates of Christmas time, December 27th. We've got Mars in Scorpio. But when Mercury slows down in the retrograde and Mars is moving forward, what happens then is Mars and Mercury meet up. And this happens on December 27th, and it happens again on January 27th. And that's an energy when Mars connects with Mercury. It's an energy, it brings stuff up. And it's going to bring stuff up from the new moon that we had right around Thanksgiving. So whatever was going on that Thanksgiving time, we're going to find that energy repeating and repeating and repeating and probably not resolving until January. And it could also be something good that's happening to you that you're trying to, you're revving the engine, you're trying to get it going. Well, now is not the time when you're going to catapult forward. Now is the time you're going to really make your plan, cross your T's, dot your I's, copyright, check everything, that kind of thing. So the Mercury retrograde is very strong this year, this time of year, because of all the other planets that are in play with it. And every time that aspect comes, the Mercury retrograde makes it occur 3 times. And it's really interesting because if you actually watch these kind of things happen, you'll be able to see the 3 things. It's like, even if you're just witnessing it, like you'll see a situation maybe at work or in your family or something, and you'll see it like happen, but it's not quite completed. And then everyone will kind of like put on the back burner, and then 10 days later, like clockwork, or whatever the dates are, like clockwork that I gave you, now you'll see it open up again, right? And maybe it gets a little further along, but it's still not completed. And then the third time around, right? Third time's the charm. That's where that expression came from. Then all of a sudden the energy completes and you're like, oh, okay. So in a Mercury retrograde, when things happen the first time, there's going to be a second and a third time if it's uncompleted energy. It won't complete until the retrograde is done, right? Almost like, I'm in the real estate business. And so like today I wrote up an offer on something, and I'm waiting to hear, and I just know it's going to be a little glitchy. It'll be like push pull. Oh yeah, it's going through. No, we don't want it. Yes, we want it. No, we don't. Oh wait, there's a problem. It's just when it's a Mercury retrograde, it always goes that way. So Mercury in Capricorn is our communication, but those reality checks come in because Mercury in Capricorn is serious. It's our boundaries, it's our limitations, it's putting the brakes on us. Capricorn is an energy also that very much likes to climb the mountain as the mountain goat. But the thing about Capricorn energy is what people often miss is the real archetype of Capricorn is the mentor. It's the teacher who completes a course of study, spends years honing it, and then reaches down the mountain to help those climbing it back up. So that's the typical Capricorn energy, is that mentor, the crone, the Yoda. So in an energy like this, where we've got a lot of squares and a lot of really conflicting and uncomfortable energy in the sky for December, we can tap into that Capricorn energy to resolve a lot of things and remember where our wisdom is. Remember where our competence is. And if we can fall back on that, we probably will find ourselves astonished that we really can navigate any situation that these planets throw at us this month. So try and stay in that beautiful space of your inner wisdom and your knowledge to overcome some of the rock and rolling that's going to happen, right? And also remember that in an energy like this, sometimes it's harder for us to know what's exaggerated and what's not. So you've really got to, listen well and watch really closely and make sure that what's going on around you. So It's the first half of December, and I think we're going to do the next half after we take a little break. But we're going to get into what's happening with the Venus, the planet of love, when it squares Pluto. So I'll be back in a minute.
All right. Is everybody having a good time tonight or what? That's what I thought.
I don't wanna come back down from this cloud, this cloud, this cloud, this cloud, this cloud, this cloud. I can't stand the truth of the past with no love.
Hi, I'm Georgia Rose, founder of Zenkuda. You can watch me on the Soul Space podcast every Friday at noon on Channel 20 for spiritual guidance. And as you all know, that is how I first opened into my own psychic gifts, was through the angelic realm, astrology. So we've got Mars and the Sun together in Scorpio, which creates a lot of combustion. In the astrological world, we call that a kazemi, and tarot. When the Four of Cups right side up, it means we have a lot of choices to make and we're not looking at what's really being divinely given to us. We're too busy in the busyness of the choices to really see the divine intervention, the divine timing, and the divine guidance. We're the place. Watch the Soul Space podcast. Wasn't that great? Bobby does great commercials, I gotta say. I think I'm famous. I don't know. We'll see. So welcome back, everybody. We rock out here at the Paradise Studios. I hear Bobby telling me something from the booth, but I can't hear him. We're both famous. I know. Well, Bobby's been famous a lot longer than me. All those years he spent in the recording booth. So I promised to tell you what was going to happen when Venus squares Pluto on December 3rd. Already happened, right? What's today, the 4th, the 5th? Well, the energy stays with us for a while. So in the beginning of October, we saw some energy happen, that a lot of stuff on the world stage, Gus. That was like Hamas and Israel, and we've got the Ukraine going on. And that's because Mars was in play with Jupiter. And that can be really intense energy. And I'm sorry to say that the last couple of days it probably is repeating a little bit. So also whatever was going on in your life probably is going to reveal another round of whatever that event was. So go back into your text, go back into your calendars and look at what was going on in the beginning of October for you, because the energy is going to come back a little bit the next couple of days. Venus in Scorpio is very possessive. It can be very strong energy that can make us very attached to things. But as I said, this month, Venus is going into Sag, so it's going to get a little bit easier. Venus is in Scorpio most of December, and then towards the end of December goes into Sag, and that'll bring us a much easier energy. It actually goes in, I think, around the 20th or 20-something. So today we had the Sun in a half square to Pluto. That means it's going to stir up some difficulties and complications, and boy, did it in my life, I have to say. But it can also signal some really hard to believe things that happen very quickly. So some direct motion, Neptune is going direct today, and what that does is it means that a lot of things that were hazy or really cloudy or murky for us most of these last couple of months, now you really get the clarity about it. And what you do with that clarity is really up to you. But it can also be an energy of some real healing and forgiveness. So hopefully that'll come in. Venus opposes Jupiter on the 9th. And that helps us with this healing process and this forgiveness. And don't forget, when you go to do some healing and forgiveness, you're going to want to do some healing and forgiveness maybe of yourself and allow yourself to be who you are. But when Venus opposes Jupiter, what happens is the planet of love and the planet of benevolence and things that actually become amplified, it helps us have that forgiveness and that kumbaya moment because it kind of puts a little sugar on everything. It's like a sweet energy. So if you have some apologies to do or some talks that you want to do with someone, the 9th is probably the best day for that. It's a good day to focus on positive things and positive potential at any rate. So take that date, put it in your calendars. Just be careful not to put too much hope or the or overindulge in optimism, because as I said, that optimistic energy is really strong this month, but you may find it too strong and not seeing the other side of things. On the 10th and 11th, the moon goes into Scorpio. It opposes Uranus. Mercury is involved. Venus is involved. Those days, December 10th and 11th, really watch your words. Really watch your communications. You may say something harshly and the energy may go to someone that wasn't meant to see it, or you can also use words, for good things. But on those days, words just come super easy. So that means they can come super easy and be harsh, or they can come super easy and be really good. But it'd be really easy for communication to flow. But in that energy, I'm sorry to say, sometimes people can be really mean. December 12th is the new moon at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. So this new moon aspects Uranus in Taurus and Mars. So what's up with this new moon? Well, on the 12th, when we have that new moon, it brings in, again, this hopeful optimism, a lot of Sagittarius energy. But we need to be cautious because, while we want to reach for the stars in this energy, and we want to reach for like the brass ring, we want to overindulge ourselves thinking nothing's impossible. It's the kind of type of energy where you could reach for it and fall off your horse, or overextend yourself in some way. It's an energy I always think of when we end up saying yes when we really wanted to say no. And we end up doing something and building up resentment and hating every minute of it. But it's because we spoke too soon or we're too optimistic about it. And it turned out to be a flop. And now we're stuck there. It's like thinking a weekend with a couple of people might be a really good time to go away. And then you go away with them. And it's like, why was I thinking? I don't really even like these people. So it's overreaching, I guess is what word you could say. This is also the time when the repetitive energy comes in. That's right around the 12th, the 13th with this new moon in Sag. That's when repetitive energy comes in. It's complicated. Things will not take us as far as we'd like them to go in this energy. So, have patience and really make sure you're realistic in your goals and your boundaries. I suggest showing restraint, especially around the mid-month of December. Observe, look really hard before you take any leaps, because in an energy like this, you can really make the wrong move. So be cautious. Things are not done. There's more to come in that mid-month time energy. December 13th, we've got more of the same. That's Wednesday, the 13th. The sun makes an exact square to Jupiter. That has a tendency, again, to exaggerate things, which can really lead to trouble. We have a lot of Sagittarian energy, and we have a lot of energy with Jupiter, planets like Venus, Mars in play. It just makes everything feel really amped up in a lot of ways. And it's communication and our speech and our emails and you're going to see a lot of people like ranting on media and things like that in that energy. So don't be one of them. Conflicts will erupt, power struggles, because the Mars is exactly squaring Pluto. And when Mars squares Pluto, it's like our gas in the car and our dynamite, it's like boom. And that's around December 13th, 14th, 15th. It's emphasized by that moon that's now in Capricorn after the new moon in Sag. And so it's a lot of energy around the middle of the month. It really is. It's a dance all month with wanting to make something real and, only looking at the good things and then having the reality check and forgetting about the other side, forgetting about, oh, wait, there was a wart on that thing or whatever. So it's a seesaw of energy, but especially around the middle of the month, that's when you're going to see energy be more eruptive and the power struggles come. Now, all of this is happening because the universe really wants us to correct a lot of power imbalances, so it will erupt things so that they can come out and heal. And also remember, this is earth energy, a lot of earth energy in Capricorn. So it's going to be stubborn. It can be, people really digging in their heels and thinking, oh, wait, this is my way. This is really the right way. Your way doesn't matter. Your way doesn't count. It's my way or the highway type energy. And also for people who are empathic or open to energy, like myself and some of the others I know have watching, I've got Kathy watching. For people who are open like us, a lot of that energy that goes into Capricorn can be heavy as well. So it's gonna be a little bit more of a serious holiday season, I think, for a lot of people. Then around the 16th, we've got Neptune in play, squaring the sun. On the 16th, when Neptune squares the sun, it's very easy for us to get caught up in illusions. It is a great time for meditations and any kind of astral travel or any kind of, communicating with the other side. But at the same time, we can get really lost in it. We can get lost in the fantasy and overreach, just like that Sag energy. So this is an energy that can move beyond our normal boundaries and move us beyond our normal restraints. So once again, look before you leap. But also in this energy, remember, it's the holiday time and we got to believe. We got to believe in those miracles and in our ability to really be able to accomplish things and go where we have not gone before and push our boundaries. We just have to make sure we're still keeping our feet grounded in reality. On the 17th, we feel that urge for healing again that we did like right around this time of the month where we are now on the 4th and 5th. We have that urge for healing again because we have the moon now in Aquarius and Mars is trining Chiron. So if you have anything you're really trying to heal, those days when the 16th, when we really can get lost in fantasy, or it's a really good time to, speak with departed loved ones or go into a meditation. And the 17th, when we really have a lot of openness when it comes to forgiveness. It's just in the air. So the 16th and 17th are really great days for reconciliation. If you have to talk to an ex or you have to talk to a sibling that you maybe had an argument with over Thanksgiving or anything like that, the 17th and 16th are really, really good days on that. However, it may be a good time for the talk and it may be a good time for forgiveness, but it's not going to move completely forward. It's not going to do that until the end of the month, but you can make a lot of headway during those days. So don't get upset or impatient if it doesn't complete. There's still a lot of energy for healing there and great potential for that. On the 18th, we've got the moon in Pisces and it activates Saturn. That's going to be a lot of restriction. So that's why I say if you have those conversations, I would do them more around the 16th or 17th, because by the 18th, that pull comes back in. Remember I said we're going to have that all month where we're optimistic and we feel good, and then the reality check comes in. So things are going to start to get a little awkward around the 18th. And what that's like is maybe you had a conversation with somebody the day before or a couple of days prior and everything was good, and now you phone them or they contact you and once again, you're not meshing. There's something not clicking. That's the kind of energy all month that we get. And just be patient with it because in the long run, everything will be okay. But, there's a very delicate balance between standing your ground in a really healthy way and also not allowing yourself to get carried away. On the 21st, Venus opposes Uranus. This is exciting, but it's also disruptive. This is a time when we just want to reach outside the box, Sometimes that's Sagittarian energy. I'm a Sag rising, and a lot of times my friends will say, don't give Georgia an inch because she'll take 10 miles. So it's like you overindulge sometimes just in your philosophy and in your own truth. Truth is so important in Sagittarius. That's what a Sag really looks for and hunts for all her life. And so in this energy, it's almost like we want the truth too much and we become fanatical about it. This is a time during this 20th, right before the solstice, we're really caught up in being attached to things that are very deep. We've still got Mars in Scorpio, and it's like we want to learn more. Very philosophical energy, deep belief systems come into play during this time. I wouldn't be surprised if you heard things in the news of people, doing some fanatical things or, really like becoming very possessive, attached jealousy, those type of emotions. The best use of this energy is remembering that we don't need to act on everything that is trying to grab our attention, because in an energy like this, in the 20s of the month, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, right leading up to Christmas, right during the solstice, it's an energy where we're going to be compelled and driven to find the deeper meaning in things, but it's almost like we can go overboard with it. So remember to choose what is you're giving attention to, all right? Not everything deserves your attention, especially falling down rabbit holes with it. So then 21st, we have the winter solstice. This is a beautiful time. I know a lot of people kind of mourn it because it's the beginning of winter. But if you actually think about it astrologically, it's actually when the sun is at its lowest point in the northern sky. And so it actually begins our trajectory towards spring. So this is the first day of winter, but the beginning of light returning to us. So it's a great time to do some candle gazing, firework where you're, looking in the fire and meditating. It's a great time to really think about what's meaningful to you and maybe what you want to make your resolutions about for 2024. I always really do a very introspective ceremony type thing during the solstice. So then we've got Mars and Uranus in a very disruptive thing that day as well, which is why I feel that it's a good time to set your intentions, because it's not a good day to physically or practically work on your goals. It's a day for being in the planning stage of them and thinking of them more in an emotional way. Because Uranus and Taurus doesn't like change. And when it comes against a planet like Mars, they're really trying to push each other into a new place, into a new dramatic change. And sometimes that can upset the apple cart, right? You're not ready for it. So that's why I think the 21st and 22nd, I would make those very introspective, very more contemplative days, to get yourself in alignment. Because on the winter solstice, Uranus is in alignment with some energies that are really indicative of change. So you want to try and control and plan your change so that it's not such a upsetting or disruptive energy. So we can intellectualize it. We can really put on our thinking caps and find the way of aligning our willpower. It's hard to get things out in the open and actually up and running during this period, but that doesn't mean we can't align our goals and dreams and intentions with our willpower. If we can do that, then everything will really come to fruition in a much, much more productive way. Just know what the energy is and how to use it. And the way to use it is not to actually start putting together the pieces. The way to use it is the drawing board and planning it all together. And this is going to fit here, and then I'm going to do this. And, oh, this is a list of what I need to do, rather than building the model, right? Building the model comes after in January. So solstice goals want more. And they won't move until Mercury is out of retrograde, which is until January. So when it passes that point in Capricorn, especially towards early February, when it's really out of shadow, that's when those solstice goals and the things that you were inspired to do really start to move forward. So be careful not to overshoot this month. Don't overshoot the energy for yourself. Make sure that your goals aren't inflated, that they're realistic. Because we have all this beautiful hope and Sagittarius optimism that we can really use and put into play, as long as we don't go overboard with it, right? Too much of any good thing is too much of a thing. So remember that, because around the 21st and 22nd, you're going to get those reality checks, and that's what's going to keep happening. It's like, I want to be free. I want to, fly at 10,000 feet, but the seatbelt sign just went on. It's kind of like that. Okay. And that's all week long. You're going to have a dance between restrictive Saturn and Pisces and hopeful potential of Jupiter, and then all the planets in Sag. So it's just this push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. But you won't feel the push, pull as much if you understand that it's not time to build the model. It's time to plan the model, invent the model, think about what the model looks like, think about what the model's becoming, think about those things in regard to you. What are you going to look like in 24? What are your goals? What are you becoming? What do you really want to plan and accomplish? And then on Christmas Day, right before like the 23rd and 24th, the sun comes into a sextile with Saturn. Now, that's a heavy energy, especially when the sun is in that area of the chart. It can make us feel very detached and very separate from our minds a lot. but that passes a little bit by the 25th, because on the 25th, Venus and Neptune come together. And this, while it makes us detached, it also is a very sweet, dreamy energy. And that's why I think that's the I gotta believe, because when Christmas comes, it's almost like the energy like Santa magic. It's very beautiful and very sweet. It has the potential for a really beautiful and lovely holiday, almost like sugar plum fairies, as long as we don't zone out too much. Because remember that fantasy, that Piscean energy, that Neptune energy of fantasy and connection with higher realms and beautiful things and miracles and just real signs and things like that. We can get carried away, and then we go too far, and then that's when the reality check comes in. So enjoy the Christmas day, because it's really like that sugar plum fairy kind of energy. But just remember, it's not all true, right? Sugar plums don't really exist. Sugar plum fairies don't really exist. But we can enjoy them as long as we remember it's a fantasy, okay? And then on the 26th, we come in, I'm sorry to say, the 26th and 27th are kind of disruptive days. We've got a full moon with Uranus disrupting all the energy, Mercury squaring Neptune. It's a full moon in Cancer. So, that Boxing Day and the day after, we just want to nest in our homes and stay in our little Cancer shell, but our boundaries are going to get pushed. This is conflict with the inner self. It can be conflict with family. So, maybe we're having a great Christmas day, and then someone calls you the next day and says, "What did you mean by that?" And it turns into a thing. I don't know. But be careful not to act on things that aren't true. Maybe someone promises something Christmas Day, and then the day after, reality sets in and you realize they were full of you-know-what, and all hell breaks loose. So just remember to stay grounded and enjoy the fantasy, knowing it's a fantasy, because when that full moon comes in on the 26th, it's very disruptive. There could be a lot of unexpected things and some craziness. Now, when I say these things, I know we always think, uh-oh, but it could also be some really unexpected, like fun craziness, But what I will say is just, once again, be careful with your words, especially in that, Christmas evening, 26th, 27th. Words can really hurt and be mean, and people come out and they have conflicts in that energy. So words can be really misleading. So just watch your words this time. But, as the month closes out, we have a grand water trine, which means that we really want to make things better as the month closes out. We want to, make things better with our family. We're willing to have more forgiveness and we have more patience, but watch your words. All right. Then by the 28th, that grand water trine comes in, Moon, Neptune, and Venus. It re-emphasizes the energy of the 25th, which is that dreamy sugar plum energy. It frees up a lot of the energy, but we definitely have a huge shift because now the moon's in Leo and everybody wants to party and, get out there. So it's a sweet energy, but be careful because in that energy also, just like at Christmas time, it can go too far. So what happens when a fantasy goes too far? It becomes deceitful. It becomes an illusion. It becomes wrapped up in an imagination that maybe wants peace and goodness, but has been really misled and is vulnerable to the lie of the fantasy. So just remember that, really keep one foot on the ground. It's making it really hard to see what's real from Christmas on to the end of the month. Really hard to see what's real. You're probably going to find a lot of media coming out that you're like, is that AI or is that true? Did that really happen? Or so fact check. And then we close out the month with Venus moving into Sagittarius. Again, that big energy shift, hopeful, things become elevated, they're lighter. Chiron is involved, so we have all this stuff that we can clear out and close. These are quieter days with more of a sense of hope. So New Year's Eve should be a really nice energy where we're very hopeful about, 2024. However, part of us really isn't convinced it's going to be that great, but we're hopeful about it. So on the 30th, just remember that 2023 was highlighting that dance between reality and holding tradition and the status quo, right? Freedom versus tradition. So on the 30th and 31st, we get a lot of clarity about this and we get some clues about how 2024 is going to end up and going to be. So it doesn't really move forward until mid to late January, early February as the planets begin to move forward in 2024. But December is a real rock and roll month. And just remember, you got to believe, but you got to keep your feet on the ground. So that's December energy. You can play this video back anytime you want the dates. I'll try and do a little post with some of the dates so that we know what to watch out for and how to let the energy guide you. I hope you've enjoyed this little thing about, you know, the astrology and how to use the energy. What I was going to say also, somebody just asked me, do you think my brother and I are going to talk again? I'm going to tell you, I think that that's up to us. It's up to us, what we do. If we can swallow pride, if we can really go into a place where we have empathy, empathy heals everything, and be grateful for whatever is there. Sarah's saying that her whole world fell apart in 2008 and still picking up the pieces. Yahoo, girlfriend, I hear you. Same thing happened to me in 2008. I think I've picked up most of my pieces now. I do see some energies repeating, especially today. But what I will tell you is that the energy is going to keep moving forward and keep moving forward. And especially when Pluto goes into Aquarius, you're going to really feel it lighten up and the planets all moving direct. And I think we're just putting the finishing touches on a lot of things. That doesn't mean it's not traumatic. It just means that we're moving forward in some very deep personal ways, and that's very important energy. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I will be here next Monday at 7 o'clock. Going to take a couple of days off for the holiday. Obviously, we'll not be here Christmas Day or New Year's Day, but we're going to have a couple of more shows in December and close out our year. I want to thank everybody for all your support this year. The love and support that we are able to develop in the Zenkuda community is so unbelievably important to me, because this is a community that there's no egos here. And I think you all know me well enough to know my whole life is pretty much heart-based. So I hope that you're bringing those hearts into this community and we're all helping each other here. We got some really big things planned for the year to come. Bobby's going to help me do a lot of really new stuff. So stick with us, because the Zenkuda community is just going to grow into more and more beautiful things. A lot of events for you, a lot of online events, all kinds of stuff. So I'll see you back here in the Soul Space. If you like what I do here and you like our guests and you like what we're planning, to definitely make sure that you're sharing the show with your friends and sharing my social media, and just, get the word out. Zenkuda, let's all join the wave. Thanks so much, everybody. I love you all, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.